Hello and welcome to Floristry Market. My name is Greg and...
I'm Emma.
Hello. Anyway, Emma, we're back.
Yes. So today I'm going to show you how to...
I didn't even ask you what we're going to do today. So what are we going to do today, Emma?
Sorry, Greg. I'm too excited. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to condition fresh flowers.
Okay.
So that conditioning is the process of how we get them ready. So whether you've bought them from a wholesaler or you are someone who's smaller, so you've gone to a supermarket and you've got those flowers and you've got them home, this is like the process of how to keep them fresher for longer and give them what they need.
So conditioning.
Conditioning. If you're in the United States, they tend to call it processing, but in the UK, we call it conditioning.
So what is it? It's essentially just preparing the flowers, make sure they last as long as possible.
Yeah, it's like if you were going to make a salad at home or something, you'd wash your veg and chop things up. It's the same kind of thing. So flowers seal. So as soon as flowers are out of water, they self-seal to keep in any moisture that's already in there. But they don't realise when you take them home, and if you just put them straight into a vase, they don't unseal. You have to do that for them. So you might have to cut them.
So that's why you snip them.
So that's why you snip them. But there's lots of other things. So not all flowers act in the same way. So you need to do slightly different things to slightly different flowers.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do today. And a few tips and tricks about how to make things last a little bit longer.
Oh, okay. And we've got some tools as well.
We've got some tools.
I believe we sell these. So why
you
would we
sell
have them there
it,
if we did?
So first thing that you want is a nice deep bucket.
Okay.
Lots of florists will use the big Dutch buckets, but you can only get those from Holland and they're coming less and less available. So these are perfect. You guys sell these.
Oh, do we?
You do, you do.
I really should know what we sell.
So the first thing that you need to make sure that you've done is your bucket needs to be really clean. So you can do that a couple of ways, either just a little bit of fairy liquid and one of those like dishmat, easy for me to say, dishmatic or something like that, the scrubbing brushes, you know? So just one of those, a little bit of fairy liquid, clean it, give it a good scrub, wash it out, rinse it out.
So what would be dirty in there? Is it just from having other flowers?
So if you've had flowers in there previously, just things like leaves, sap that might have come out of the flowers, if you don't clean your bucket off, that creates bacteria. And then the bacteria, when you put the fresh water in, goes into the water, the flowers suck it up, that starts to help them to decay a lot quicker.
Okay.
So you always want a nice clean bucket.
All right.
If you're in a hurry or if your buckets are really bad, you can always put a little bit of a bleach solution in there, fill them up with water, leave them overnight, tip them out, rinse them out and go again.
Okay.
A clean bucket.
Clean bucket.
Really super important. Next thing is you might want to put a little bit of flower food in there, which you have there.
I've got a big tub here.
Yeah, so the big tub is great. So if you're a florist, a home florist, or you're a shop, that's great because it's just you've got a scoop in there and you can scoop it in. You can use it like that.
I've got little sachets.
You've got little sachets, so you might not be a person that does a lot of orders, but you still want to have that. So the sachets might be better if you don't want to have a whole bucket, or also if when you're sending your flowers out to your customers, you want to attach flower food.
Exactly, you always get flower
Perfect
food
for
when
that.
you get
Yeah.
something.
So generally, if you're going to be using and processing lots of flowers, then I'd use the bigger one. If it's a smaller amount, then that one will do.
Cool.
Then I would like, please, the scissors, the
These
yellow
ones?
ones. Yeah, perfect. And the yellow knife. Thank you. Right.
So these look like they're specialist scissors. These are made by Oasis, everybody.
Yeah. So you've got, these are really great carbon scissors. So they're great for floristry. They're really tough. You can cut through lots of things.
I should say, actually, Smithers Oasis. I might have got that wrong. So Oasis is the brand of the stuff they make. The company is Smithers Oasis. Very sorry, Smithers Oasis.
Okay. So these are great. These are really nice. And they do a few different varieties. These are just my preference. I just like them.
Yep.
And then a sharp little knife. You need to be really careful with these because they are really sharp, but they're great for taking the ends off of flowers and things like that. So they're great. And then you've also got here...
This.
We'll come back to that.
Oh, I had two to choose from.
Secateurs.
Okay.
So we've got the secateurs. So that's really good if you've got some sharp woody stems that you find hard to cut through. So we've got some hydrangeas, so they'll be good for that.
Can I pick this thing up now? Or are we going to come back to that later?
We'll come back to that.
Oh, man.
I might leave that till the last
that's
now.
What I'm excited about.
Right, so what we're going to start with today is we've got a little selection of different flowers. So I'm going to show you how to process these different things. And I might test your knowledge, actually.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Okay, so first one's first. Do we know what that one is?
We do.
We
I
do.
don't.
Right, it's a gladioli.
I was going to say.
So if you're like me and you grew up in the 70s and 80s, you remember Dame Edna Everage, and she used to carry these around all the time. So gladioli, they're great. They grow in the UK.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take off any excess foliage that's going to be below the waterline.
Okay.
So my bucket is about half full.
Yeah.
So if you're a glass half full person. So I'm going to take off any excess foliage that I know is going to be below the waterline. So gladioli grow really well in the UK if you are a person that wants to grow things, and they grow from a bulb. Okay, so I'm just going to strip those off.
So how long would they take to grow?
Oh, I don't know, about 6 months, I think. We need to maybe get a grower in, an expert.
Yeah, any growers out there want to be on?
Let us know how long they take. Right, so then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to snip the bottom. So you can either do that with your scissors. I like to do it with my knife.
Okay.
You're going to cut, I'm just going to move that bucket in case it's in the way, actually. Then I'm going to cut with my knife at a 45-degree angle, really sharply. And the reason we do that, I'm going to put them straight into water so they can start to drink. So if you cut something off straight, like that, it's only got that surface area to drink from. If you cut it at the 45, it's got a greater surface area to drink from, so it can take up more water, so it hydrates quicker.
And also, I know this, it's not, if you cut it straight and it's just down on the bottom, the water can't get in.
Yeah.
If it's cut at an angle, it can get in.
Well done.
See, I do know stuff.
Okay. So the other thing with gladioli is you've got this really long piece at the top that bends over, okay? So there's not really a lot of flower in there, but the plant doesn't understand it. So what it does is it wastes all its energy and water, sending it right up to the very top, the tips, that are never going to open anyway. And then what happens is these side shoots don't open. So what we do is we just pinch out the top.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so now what will happen is that gladioli will open up all the way up.
Just the top one?
Just the very top ones. And you can see that they're normally the ones that are like bending over. So I know that people might be a little bit like, I don't know, like, where do you stop? How much do I pull out? So if in doubt, just take the tips out. But it's generally the bit that's like really leaning over. So you take that out and then the flower will open all the way up. So that's gladioli. We'll do hydrangeas because I love them.
Okay.
So hydrangeas, gorgeous. They're a bit of a hero flower. They're quite big, they last for quite a long time, they're quite impactful, very popular in weddings, very popular in big displays, and they come in lots of vibrant colours. So this is its natural colour. It's one of the few flowers that comes naturally in a blue.
Oh, really?
So, like a very pale blue, so pale to mid. Again, you can grow them well in the UK. Depends on where you live as to what colour they'll come up with because of the different soils, so whether it's alkali or acid. But yeah, hydrangeas. So, a few things with hydrangeas. First of all, they've got lots of lovely big leaves.
They have.
So, although they're not below the waterline, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off a few more than I need because, again, the plant doesn't understand, the flower doesn't understand that they're not really that important to me. Okay. So they still use a lot of water and energy hydrating those leaves. Yeah. So I'm just going to take a few off because they're really big and the plant will use a lot of those.
So you use the knife and use the scissors?
Yeah, to be honest, sometimes in the studio I tend to use the knife, but the scissors are there. So again, cut them at that 45-degree angle.
So there's no rule, you can use whatever you want?
Yeah, so you can either cut them at a 45-degree angle like that, or another thing that people will do is they will slice up into them. Oh, okay. Like that.
I've not seen that before.
So they're a nice woody stem.
Okay.
So this is a really nice, fresh, plump, hydrated hydrangea, so we're just going to put that straight into water. However, if that hydrangea was really hot or that hydrangea started to collapse, hydrangeas actually drink through their petals.
Really?
For instance, if you've got them in the garden and it's been really, really hot and you'll see that they've all kind of like shrunk, as soon as it rains or you water them, they come back up, and it's because they hydrate through their petals.
Do many flowers do that?
Not many that I know of, but hydrangeas definitely do that. So what you can do is, if you've got hydrangeas and you've done all of those things, you've got your clean water, you've cut them, you've snipped them, and you come down in the morning and they're flagged, is fill up the sink or a bath or something like that with cold water, little bit of flower food, completely submerge them for a couple of hours, and they will hydrate and re-pick up again.
Top tip.
Top tip. So, hydrangeas are really good for that. So that's those. Then we've got Gerbora.
Yes.
Okay. As you can see, this one's quite like bent over. So the reason is Gerbera have got a hollow stem, like a straw. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a wire in there to straighten that up so that the water can suck straight up. So what happens is Gerberas take on the shape of however they're kind of left. So if we left that Gerbera like that and put that in water, as that hydrates, the stem, so that you can feel that part of the stem's quite soft. Yeah. And that part of the stem's quite sturdy. Yeah, cool. Right. So
Just broken a flower.
as that hydrated more, this would become really sturdy and that would then stay bent, that shape, which is okay, but we generally want them quite straight.
Okay.
And then what else happens is if the water doesn't get right up to here, then the head tends to kink over and then you've got like a really hydrated stem and then the head rots. Okay. So what we do is we take a wire. So again, you've got these, they come in, I don't know if you've seen them in the warehouse, you've got them in packs or bundles.
Yeah.
So you push the wire.
I thought you were going to go from the bottom.
No, but you can do that. So that's called internally wiring it. So you can push it all the way through and thread it through till it goes up to the top.
Okay.
That's quite tricky when you're beginning. So another way that we do it is you take your wire and you push it into the head and you'll feel it, it pops. Actually, I'll do it and then I'll let you have a go. So when you pop it in, you'll feel it just pops. But what you do is you don't want it to come through the other end.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel it?
Yeah.
So it just pops in. Okay. So the next part's really important. So you don't want to wrap the wire around the flower because what happens is that's really strong and it just guillotines the head off.
Okay.
So between your thumb and your finger, you just take the top of the flower head and you roll the flower into the wire like that, all the way down. Mm-hmm. And then you can gently straighten the flower up and the head up. Then you pop that into water and that hydrates. You can leave the wire on there if you want to. So some florists, particularly if they're a shop-based florist and they don't know how quickly they're going to be using them, they will leave the wires on there. Or once it's hydrated and as I said, it's fully sucked up and it's gone to that shape, you can, like for instance, in wedding work, I would take that wire off because you don't want that catching.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Do you leave that wire on when you're creating a bouquet or do you always take it off?
So generally the rule of thumb is if you're making like a bouquet for a gift bouquet or something like that, you shouldn't have any wire below the binding point, so the point where we tie it and we're going to put water in. So you could take that off and trim that if you wanted. So you could have wire above. If it was for a bridal bouquet or an event or something like that, you want to make sure you've got them in, they're really hydrated, and then I personally would take the wire.
But you can leave it on there
You
because
can
nobody
leave
will
it on
see
there.
it because you've got a whole bouquet.
Yeah. So that's Gerbora.
Yep.
So we've got those. Now then we've got some Gypsophila.
Are we going to use this now?
No, I'm going to make you wait till the end now. So we've got some Gypsophila. So actually what I'm just going to do now is, in transit, some of these have got broken.
Okay.
So although we're doing conditioning, which means we're doing something to the stem, we do another process as florists, which is called grooming. So if you think about the hair, so that is if something's happened to the head and it's damaged, we take it off.
Yeah.
So you do that in this processing conditioning stage. So anything where there isn't a flower head, like there, I'm going to snip that off. And anything where there's a broken head, I'm just going to snip those off. Put them to one side because we might use them for something. Right, okay. Gypsophila is part of the dianthus family, which that includes carnations, sweet williams.
Okay.
And what that means is they have, if you can see on the stem, they've got these little nodes and bobbles. Right, so they're called nodes and they're like a fibrous knuckle of stem. I'm sure, again, there's lots of carnation and Gypsophila growers out there that can tell us the science behind that.
How do these...
So they just form when the flower grows, but they're quite like a fibrous, they're really hard. So if I cut on that knuckle, then it's really hard for the plant to suck water up. So you always cut above or below the knuckle. And you do that for carnations, gerberas, carnations, Gypsophila, sweet williams, anything that's in the dianthus family. Okay? So again, that's just a 45-degree angle, making sure you've gone above or below the node.
Yeah.
They're in the water.
Job done.
Job done. Then we've got just some nice sunflowers. These need to be starting to open. So they're really tight. So again, if you go into a supermarket or you go sometimes into a florist, people want to buy the really big open ones.
Yeah.
It just depends on when you want to use it. So if you want them to last for a long time, then you want to look for them that are a little bit more like that. Because they are going to open and unfurl. But as they open, again, they use a lot of water and it takes a lot of water to open the head. So something like a sunflower with lots and lots of leaves on it, I would take those off because you don't need them.
Have you ever been to Exbury and gone around on the train?
Oh, it's gorgeous,
seen the sunflower
isn't it?
fields.
It's gorgeous.
That's lovely.
I just love how they all turn their heads to the sun. So I'm going to take off those excess leaves because they're quite big. They're not particularly pretty and that will just encourage the plant to open. So again, 45-degree angle. Nice slice, and they can go in.
Excellent.
Then,
So many flowers.
I know, you can use your tool now.
Hey!
Okay, so roses. Okay.
So what is this?
So that is for stripping the leaves and the thorns from something like a rose. Now, because I'm old and I'm old school, I still tend to use a knife.
Okay.
But lots of people like to use these because it's quicker, because you can just run down the stem. So I'll show you how I do it, and then you can, right. So roses have got thorns on them.
They have.
Lots of the newer varieties tend to have less thorns because they're specifically bred to not have too many thorns on them.
Okay.
But then they tend to lose a bit of their scent. So particularly if you're using English roses, they will have a lot of thorns.
Okay.
So what we do with those is we take our knife. When I'm conditioning, always tend to put things under my arm just to protect it, facing down. We should say at this point, actually, it's always good to work into a bin because wet leaves are like a banana skin. Okay.
Better be careful.
So I just take my knife and I just flick them off.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you do that all the way down.
Okay.
And then I would also take off my leaves. So again, anything above the waterline with my knife.
Okay.
But
if only there was an easier way.
So your machine will you clamp onto the rose like that and you strip down.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay. So it's a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So generally, I mean, we're doing these one at a time, but roses come in like wraps, so they might come in 10s or 20s. So if you want to be processing them quicker, I can see why people like this tool.
Yeah.
It's just, maybe I'm a bit stuck in my ways and I should
well, that happens.
Try that a bit more.
All right.
Okay, so then we're going to cut these at a 45-degree angle.
I'll let you go back with your knife now. I'll put this little thing back in there.
Right, so we're going to cut that at a 45-degree angle. So the other thing with roses have what we call guard petals. So on a rose, I don't know if you ever noticed, sometimes they have those frilly green leaves on the outside. Yeah. So their job is purely to protect the inner rose. So you want to remove your guard petals when you're using them. And a little tip so I would, if I was processing them and they were going into a shop, I'd remove the guard petals because otherwise customers might think, oh, they look a bit moth-eaten or worse for wear. Okay. If I was processing them and I was using them for a wedding or an event, I would keep the guard petals on until I was ready to use them because they're there to protect the rose.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So it's generally only about 2 or 3 flowers, and you gently just peel them off.
I mean, that one looks all right to me.
Well, yeah, it was kind of like doing it for
just giving this
display purposes.
Sorry.
Yes, Greg.
I've spoilt the effect.
Right, so that's that. So you've done that, you've taken your guard petals off, and they're having a good drink.
Okay.
Another little tip with roses, have you ever bought roses and you've come down in the morning and they've gone over at the head? Right, so there's a trick to revive them. So if it's overnight, what you can do is you boil the kettle.
Okay.
You want about 2.5 centimetres, an inch of boiling hot water.
Yeah.
You just plunge them in. What's happened is they've got an airlock. So you plunge them in for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. So you're bursting the airlock. You take your rose, you straighten the head up. You get a piece of brown paper or newspaper or whatever you've got. You roll it back up in to the paper so the head's nice and straight and supported. Bit of sellotape. Fill your bucket up with deep cold water. Pop them in there for a couple of hours. After a couple of hours, they should revive.
Wow.
But you can't do that if you've gone away for the weekend or something like that. Yeah. But if it's just overnight, that's what it is. They've got an airlock.
That's an amazing tip.
So there's that one. And then we've just got really some chrysanthemums, which are the same kind of thing. They're that. Well, what would I do?
You'd probably use this again.
I could use that. Yeah, you could use that, actually.
Oh, I've got to get a thing off now.
Do you want to go?
Not really.
Sure?
I don't know. No, I'll break something.
It's quite easy. So again,
quite easy. I could have done that.
Well, you can do the next one. You can do that.
I didn't think there was any more.
And your 45-degree angle. And then again, just really to sort of kind of reiterate, once you've done something to the stem, you're then checking the head. So you're just making sure. So sometimes they might have a broken head, or sometimes they might have, this one typically hasn't, what we call a blank, where you've got a stem but no head. Okay. So you just snip those off.
What's that one called again?
That's a chrysanthemum. So that's a Kermit Santini.
Okay.
So actually, chrysanthemums get a really bad rep. People don't like them. They think they're old-fashioned. But actually, there's so many new varieties. They last for weeks. So these will last you 2-3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're quite robust. Yeah. And they go quite a long way. So you can see there's quite a lot on the stem there. So you could break them up. A tip I would give to florists is, particularly if it's summertime, so things like your hydrangeas and your sunflowers and your gladiola aren't going to necessarily last that long. So if you're doing a summer bouquet, it's always good to add a few things in there, like the Santini chrysanths, that are going to last a long time, and maybe even some carnations, because people will then think, they'll feel like their flowers have lasted a long time, when actually, in fact, some died after 5 days, but some are still going after 2 or 3 weeks. So I personally quite like them, even though people think they're old-fashioned.
What about carnations? Do people like carnations? Or is that considered old-fashioned?
Again, they're considered old-fashioned, but people are thinking about those white, pink. There's so many lovely varieties out there now, like raspberry ripple, and actually I haven't got any, but in the States they do a thing where they take, maybe for another day, they take the centre of the carnation out and then it looks like a different flower.
Okay.
But they're great because they last for a long time. Yeah. And finally, I'm going to show you a little bit of eucalyptus.
Yep.
So if you just run your hand down that and then smell your hand, it smells gorgeous.
Oh, that is nice.
So that is one of the things that's about having fresh flowers in the home. It's the scent and the touch, and there's so much research.
I knew you were going to start talking about that. You've done some posts and things on your Instagram, and you've talked about the benefits of having flowers in the office, all that sort of stuff.
So NASA and Harvard University have both done research, and it's proven that flowers and plants in the workplace increase productivity, creativity, and they reduce absenteeism.
Wow.
And in the home, it's good for well-being. But I think a lot of it is like the texture, the smell, the scent. And the eucalyptus, if you've had eucalyptus in a bouquet or something like that, if you hang it in the shower, it will keep releasing like that scent, and it keeps it hydrated. So lots of people will do that. But it just gives you that lovely
I like the
smell.
feeling of this as well.
Yeah, and the colour.
Yeah. So what do we do with this?
So that one's just like a little snip and add it in. But I just wanted to show you that one because, again, it's something really nice to add in for scent, and you can use, if you've got it in a bouquet, you can take it out, put it in the shower.
Yeah.
So, everything goes into a bucket. Most flowers, ideally, if you're working with them in a florist, you want to give them like 2 to 4 hours of hydration. If I was having flowers in for a big event or a wedding, I would have them in the day before I was going to work with them. So for instance, if it's a wedding, I'd have them in on the third. So the wedding's on the Saturday. I'd have the flowers in on the Thursday to condition and process them. I'd make them on the Saturday and make them on the Friday, and they go out for delivery on the Saturday. So I think that's something a lot of people that are new to the industry are worried about. When should they get the flowers in? And they think, oh, maybe I should get them in on like Friday, so they're nice and fresh, but actually they've not then had long enough to drink.
So you leave them sort of overnight to hydrate, and then you can prepare them on Friday, and they'll still be absolutely fine.
Yeah, they'll be perfect. They'll be better. They'll be better for having a really good drink. And the other thing is, so you want to make sure that your water's clean, there's no foliage in there, you've got your flower food in there, you've given them long enough to drink, and you want to make sure that you keep them out of the sunlight, because that will make them mature quicker, and keep them cool, because obviously once the water heats up, gets like bath water, and they heat up quickly. And one last thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not rushing you.
Flowers produce a natural gas, which is called ethylene gas.
Yeah.
So if you buy flowers from the supermarket or from the wholesaler, they generally come wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
First thing you need to do is remove the plastic, because that keeps the gas in, so therefore the flowers mature a lot quicker. So you take them out of that. And the other thing is you want to keep your flowers away from fruit and veg, because particularly apples are the worst. They really produce lots of ethylene gas that will make your flowers mature and open quicker. But the flip side of that is if you've got something, say like lilies or peonies, and you need them desperately to open for an event, you put them next to your fruit bowl and they'll open.
I had no idea. Oh, this is amazing.
There's so many more. There's so many more. But so it might be one of those things that as things come into season, we bring the different seasonal flowers in, because different things need different care.
That's a great tip. Who'd have thought a couple of apples could help you and hinder you if you don't realise?
Yeah, so like literally sometimes if you're like desperate for lilies to open for something, then you've got them like they're in the middle of the table, and then you've got like all the apples around them and the bananas. And,
Oh, fantastic. Well, Emma, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
That was great. I hope everybody enjoyed that. If you did enjoy it, or you've got any questions for Emma, just go on the comments down below or interact with us on social media. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you want. Anyway, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Bye.